So I'm here with Jonathan from Urban Heat. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Where are you right now?
I'm home. I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, nice, nice. So
Yeah,
what?
you caught me at the rare time that that I'm home with how much touring we're doing.
Nice, nice. Yeah, because you're in the middle of a tour right now, right?
Yeah, we kind of we did 3 weeks on the West Coast, and then we're home for a little bit. We've got 3 weeks on the East Coast, and then we'll go to Europe for 8 weeks.
That's amazing, amazing. So how did you three get together? Was it for the love of 80s music, or what was the common bond between you three for Urban Heat?
For us, I think the common bond was really this sort of, the Austin music scene in the last 10, 15 years was really, really tight knit. Kind of a lot of the venues are in a small, concentrated area. And so we kind of always see each other playing around, and we were in friends' bands and things. And it was one of those things where it's like, man, one of these days I want to do something with this guy. And this guy. And I didn't think that it would be with both of them together.
Mhm.
But when one of my projects ended and I wanted to do something else, it kind of came to Kevin, who's our synth player, and he suggested Pax, our bass player, to kind of flesh it out. Um, they're kind of fans of all genres of music. They're really big hip hop heads, and it's just sort of the 80s sort of thing just kind of came from you know, my my first daughter had just been born, and I needed to make music that I could make in headphones. And so I started doing rather than I was in like an electro punk band before playing guitar.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I needed something that I could write and produce sort of while my infant slept next to me. And so synthesizers, something I could do in my headphones.
Gotcha.
Um, and yeah,
And the rest is history.
yeah, yeah. I mean, analog synths for me it paired really well with a Linn drum sound, this old '80s drum machine, and it just sort of yeah, just kind of a perfect storm of things, sort of. And my wife at the time, I was singing in a lot higher register, and my wife had suggested, she's like, "You have this really nice low voice. Why don't you sing in that baritone?" Um, and so those things all together just kind of yeah made this thing happen.
Very cool, very cool. Now you grew up Orthodox Christian, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, very strict fundamentalist, yeah.
Yeah, so growing up in your teens, you weren't allowed to watch color TV, is that correct? And you weren't even exposed to modern music at a certain point until
Yeah, yeah, I didn't, really hear modern music until I was, like, 15,
wow.
so it was all sort of church hymns. The electric guitar was shunned, drums were shunned, so, like, nothing with a beat, nothing, um yeah, it was just, like, old canonical sort of, the stuff that you sing in the pew.
That's crazy. Was a culture shock to you though, like getting out of that.
Yeah, I think so because I really like went in the deep end of kind of having to figure things out for myself, you know, which led to a lot of substance abuse issues and things like that. And I kind of had to figure all that out on my own and sort of, my find my own sort of internal kind of higher power to kind of see my way through things.
Right. And that's my next topic was your sobriety. You went to Haiti,
Yeah.
is that correct? To get sober?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Haiti when I was kicking heroin.
Yeah.
Actually, I got back and I was still drinking and then I was using cocaine. Just because in a music scene, it's wild how normalized some stuff gets, you know. But like my relationship with it just wasn't tenable. So I think my daughter, I think also my first daughter, I think I can credit with all of this, from like the band being started to my sobriety. I think she was kind of the kicker. Was I never wanted my infant to see me sort of messed up.
Right, right, right. So then after that you got pretty much cleaned up.
Yeah, yeah. I use plant medicine, but but as far as like party drugs, it's a no for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. You're very spiritual, so I hear.
I guess. Yeah, I get. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm a human being. I'm a human
Yeah.
being trying to make sense of why we're here and what happens afterwards.
Do you incorporate that into your lyrics of the band?
I don't know if it's intentional. I'm sure that stuff creeps its way in, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And you believe in like reincarnation and all that jazz a little bit. It touches
I
up a little
think
bit about.
yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think I'd okay, I'll put it this way. I would be lying if I said that I didn't.
All right, cool. Seven Safe Places. What is the song about?
Uh, that's one that kind of so it initially I was reading I was reading an article about Jim Jones, and the Jonestown Massacre, and um he had this article that he had read where he found Jonestown. It was like 9 safe places to hide in the event of a nuclear disaster. And
Oh,
the Jonestown location was one of them. And I was like, man, I really want to write a song about that. And so I put it in the back of my head. I forgot that it was 9. And so when I started like, started singing to myself and I was like, seven, seven. I was like, yeah, yeah. And so so I went with this whole thing and it kind of became this like Bonnie and Clyde sort of thing. These like star-crossed lovers who, just kind of the idea of like, I remember being younger and sort of having a crush on a girl and her family disapproving of it, And so this idea of like if we could just get away from our families, we could just do this thing. And then I went back to that article and was like, because it was kind of inspo for the title and stuff. And then I went back to the article and I was like, yeah, 9 safe places to hide just doesn't come off the tongue the same way, you know?
right. Where do you get the inspiration to write your stuff? Most of your songs.
That's a really good question. And I think I'm trying to figure that out myself because if I knew consistently where they all come from, I'd be able to probably crank them out faster.
Hmm.
So I could like get to that place.
Yeah.
Um, It really depends. Sometimes there's just like a lyric just kind of comes out of nowhere, it just pops into your head, and you're just like, "Ooh, that's a good lyric." Or you'll be in conversation, and somebody will say something, and you're like, "Okay." And I have a notes app, and I just put all that down. Um, Sometimes if I'm writing, I'll write like a beat and put an instrumental to it and just kind of like sing vowel sounds and consonant sounds and figure out like, okay, I really like an A here and an O here and a U here, and then kind of have to like piece it together. It's like a puzzle, It's like I have like this information, I know that, and then I have to make the rest of it kind of make sense. There's a really good book I have it right over here. I think it's Writing Better Song Lyrics. Um, that's a really beautiful sort of, it has a lot of exercises in sort of describing your senses and trying to, I don't know. I think with this last record, I was really trying to approach it from a more educated place, I think, on my songwriting. I was reading a lot of books on songwriting and I would wake up and just like go through this thesaurus for a little while and just kind of find words. But I think at the end of the day, it has to come from, if it's not coming from an almost subconscious place, at least for me, it feels contrived. If I'm like, okay, yeah, let me try to write this perfect lyric, like, and then you're also, if you put that much of your conscious self into it, then you're also opening yourself up for critique. It's easy when I'm just like, hey man, I was making a puzzle out of vowel sounds. You know what I mean? It's easier
Yeah.
if somebody's like, I don't like that one. I'm like, well, okay, cool. You know what I mean? If I put my
Right.
everything into it and I slave over these lyrics, then that would suck if people don't like it, So I think it's like a way of protecting myself too, to just kind of like
Right.
approach it in like a light, non-serious way, even if it is like a serious subject matter.
And I think people will relate nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean that's what music is, right?
Yeah.
I think music can be more powerful for people if I'm not spoon feeding you what the meaning is, and you know what I mean? Like telling you this is what you should feel right now. It's just more about what I'm feeling, and then you can interpret that however, because it needs to, for me when I'm listening to a song, I need to be able to like really apply it to like a moment or a feeling for me, regardless of what the intention of the songwriter was.
Right. What are you bringing different to the table with the Tower, your new album?
I think the tower is closer to capturing that energy of a live show. Um, I didn't know what the live show was going to be like when we first started writing stuff, and so Wellness, I think, was written without the live show in mind.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that with the tower, we kind of gave ourselves permission to play even more with the genre and kind of see where else we could sort of take it, what other influences we can infuse it with. And I think I'm really excited for our genre, the kind of like darker, kind of gothy music. But I also think that it needs to grow. I think that it needs to breathe a little bit and get some fresh influence kind of brought into it. So I like to think that we did that on this, and um, yeah, I don't know. It's if if you designed a car and it like and you did it well enough that it runs and it works and you sold some of them and someone's like, hey, we want you to design another car for us, you know, like you're going to take it's not going to be brand new, you're going to take what you learned from that first model, and you know, so I feel like it's just urban heat 2.0, you know.
Cool. Cool. Um, you and your fashion. I want to talk about that real quick. The band's fashion.
Okay, okay.
You guys
Ooh.
are relatively like, I mean, you mix it up pretty much, right? And you get your threads from vintage outlets. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Pax, our bass player, he sells vintage. He's got his online shop and he throws markets here in Austin. And I think that that's influenced us a lot. And then Kevin kind of more like streetwear. Um, and then my background, you know, I discovered punk. That was the first like genre that I went to when I was able to listen to music, you know. And so it's kind of sort of an amalgamation of that, but then also like Austin is obviously like we're Texas, so we can get away with our cowboy hats, our Stetsons, and our cowboy boots, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But also sometimes throwing it back to, you know, when Depeche Mode first started wearing bondage gear and stuff at their shows. So I feel like with as long as it's black, it can kind of get away with anything.
Sure, sure, sure. And leather's not a bad option either, but
Oh, yeah. But it's also like being I mean, it's like where are you at in the country?
in New York City, in Queens.
Okay, so let me check the weather right now. Oh, that's not bad. It's 90. It's
Right.
90 today, which is actually a really cool day for us. We've been in the triple digits. And so like I look at my leather in the closet just longingly, you know, waiting for the chance to be able to bust it out.
Yeah, I'll break it out and stuff and wear it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do a lot of charity work too, is that correct?
I think that I'm aware socially of when someone or a population is in need and there's something that we can do. Yeah.
You do the Children at Borders, is that right? Or
Um, there was we were trying to raise money for ambulances in Ukraine for a while. And then yeah, there's a charity called Border Kindness that provides support to families that are still separated at the Texas Mexico border, which was something, man, they started the family separations over 5 years ago now, and there's still that's still happening. There's still families in detention that are split up from each other, and
right, right,
yeah,
right.
so it's like that. I wouldn't necessarily consider us like that we do a lot of charity work, but we have a platform, and if there's a way that we can raise money for something, you know what I mean, that we believe in, then we're going to do that.
Cool. And you're in the middle of a tour right now. You're going to be visiting New York soon and all. I think it's going to be in November.
Yeah, yeah, we're doing a Trans Picos on I have dates right here. I should.
Yeah, I'll put the dates on the website too. But
Okay, okay,
how's
word, yeah.
how's the touring experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, in ways it's everything I've ever wanted. In other ways it's also it's something where you have to sacrifice some stuff in order to make those dreams happen, you know?
Mhm.
Um, the shows have been great. We definitely see growth from it. We're getting becoming our live show is a well-oiled machine. We've got our stuff down. We're just at the point where we're able to hire our first crew member, which has been amazing having another set of hands there, you know. Um, but then the flip side of that is that I kind of feel like, you know, the movie Interstellar, um,
I've seen it.
with so essentially there's a planet that they land on. They're astronauts, right? And there's a planet that they land on where there's time dilation. And so every hour on this planet is like 7 years pass in Earth,
Oh,
right?
I
So when
see.
they get so when they get back, the whole world, like, so it kind of feels like that sometimes, like you leave and you're gone for so long, you're gone so often, and the world just kind of keeps moving and keeps going, and it can feel like you're not like you're being forgotten, but you're just, you know, it's a trade-off. There's something to be said for really being able to plug into your community and with your family and like and being that sort of like pillar. Um, and you kind of I feel like you kind of have to sacrifice that. You sort of miss that by trying to go down the path less trodden or something, you know?
Right, right. After the tour, what's gonna be next for you guys?
We'll get back at the end, middle of December. So holidays with fams. We've got a couple of like one-off dates that we'll fly out to. We've got some cool festivals that we're doing in the spring of next year that I don't think they've announced yet. Doing some more European dates in the spring of next year.
All right.
Um, but really, I think we're working on the next record. Trying to write that right now, kind of write it on the road, and so